Mr. Speaker, at the end of 2011, there were 8,171 children waiting for childcare in Manitoba. A year later, the number had risen to 9,759. A year after this, the number was 10,523. At the end of 2014, there were 11,105 children. Mr. Speaker, the Premier says he's making progress with 900 new spaces, but the reality is that his efforts are not even addressing 10% of the actual increased need. Why is today's NDP progressively failing to keep up with the increased need for childcare in Manitoba?
Mr. Speaker, the number of places for childcare in Manitoba have more than doubled since our time in office. There are just about 30,000 publicly funded daycare spots in Manitoba, 15,000 when we came in office. The funding has tripled, Mr. Speaker. The wages for daycare workers have gone up 60%. We're only one of two jurisdictions in Canada that has put in place a pension plan for daycare workers, Mr. Speaker. We announced this morning $2.8 million to build and upgrade another 14 daycares in Manitoba. I was with the member from St. Vital when we announced a new daycare center in the St. Vital area, which will be 48 spots, of which a good portion, I believe 12, will be for infants and the remainder for preschoolers, Mr. Speaker. At a time when other provinces and at a time when the Leader of the Opposition was part of a federal government that killed the national daycare program, Mr. Speaker, we're moving forward with better jobs, better wages, more spots, better facilities, and more training, Mr. Speaker, and there's more to come in our 5-year plan. 5,000 more spots, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build a universally accessible daycare program in Manitoba, and I only wish the members of the opposition would support it, all of them, including the member from River Heights, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, still 11,000 short and growing. Brock Corden is a UNESCO-associated school and is one of only 2 public schools in North America with a Hebrew language track. It's an inclusive school that attracts people of all backgrounds from all over Winnipeg. The attached daycare is essential. We know today's NDP claims to support the concept of having daycares associated with schools, but the province is not funding all the licensed Brock Corden daycare spaces as promised. Why is the government not funding existing and much-needed spaces as promised when there's such an overall shortfall under his watch?
Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the local school for the work they're doing in providing daycare spots for their children and their families. I remember the experience ourselves in our neighborhood with our daycare when there were there were reductions in funding, and we found ways to fund more daycare support for families in our neighborhood at the daycare that my children attended. It's very important that they do that. We are expanding another 900 spaces. We did 800 last year. We're going to build it out by another 5,000. We have increased wages 2% January 1st this year. Another 2% January 16th will be coming forward. Additional support will be available for people to upgrade their skills. They will get additional support and salary when they upgrade their skills. We got a pension program. $2.8 million for 14 daycares was announced today, and stay tuned. There's going to be another announcement. And all the daycares we're doing in schools, every new school we build in Manitoba will have a daycare center in it. That means now, in Manitoba, about half of all daycare places are in public schools. That's progress, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Brock Corden School Daycare serves families from all over Winnipeg. In 2013, the Daycares Board consulted with Family Services about expanding to meet a growing need. They were told funding could take up to 2 years, but they were licensed right away. They added 38 new spaces that families immediately filled. Now, 2 years later, they're told the funding model has just changed and their new spaces are no longer a priority. Will the Premier address his minister's short-sighted decision and commit today to providing adequate funding to Brock Corden School Daycare, or will the Premier call each of these families to tell them that their children no longer have a daycare space?
Speaker, we will roll out another 900 spaces for daycare in this province this year. We will invest $2.8 million in existing and new daycares unattached to schools. We will have a future announcement, double-digit announcement in the millions of dollars of daycares we're building in public schools. We will increase wages for daycare workers. We've done it in January. We'll do it again next January. We will have more support for training. And we will continue the pension plan, Mr. Speaker, and have a fee structure which is among the most affordable in the country, based on people's ability to pay, Mr. Speaker. All of those things we'll do, and we will certainly find ways to work with all families and all communities as we move forward to ensure that daycare is available. We want a universally accessible and affordable daycare system for this province. That's part of our vision for the future. That allows families to work. That allows families to go back to school. That allows families to get training. All of those things were never done when the opposition was in power. They cut welfare. They cut daycare. They cut school funding. We're doing the opposite, Mr. Speaker. We're going to find the way forward for Manitoba families and the Manitoba economy, Mr. Speaker.